and welcome to Steam Powered PD. My name is Kern Kelly, and today is Monday, April 27th. We are going to today talk about Google Calendar. I switched the schedule a little bit as far as the order of things. I think we'll do our topic right up top, and then we'll answer questions. It seems to be by the end of the session, questions come in, so I will save that for the end, and we'll go through and do all those different questions. Also, for updates for today, if you are in RSU19, don't forget to go to rsu19.info, where you will be able to add your attendance. If you scroll down a little bit on the left there, you can add that you are here today, which is wonderful. You can also, I better add a link there, and I'll put this in the chat as well, bit.ly/RSU19 sign up. And if you are interested in volunteering for the to help with the lunches that are going out each day, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, then you can go ahead and sign up right there and kind of give the lunch department there kind of heads up of who's available, who can show up which days, and that kind of thing. So I'll be adding that link for each of the days that we do these workshops, RSU19 sign up, and it's all caps. I'll be right in the show notes. So today we're going to talk about Google Calendar. One thing that we're finding as we're going forward, and I see this with my own students and my own children, as far as is the scheduling of things, and when things, if they're not overlapping schedules, or if they have too much stuff going on, and making sure for students, like two teachers aren't asking them to be in the same place at the same time. So I thought it'd be worth doing a deep dive into Google Calendar, what that looks like, and then we will go into questions and answers. And then we'll wrap up by our extra credit today is called Google Keep, which is kind of a task manager, which I also kind of connected to Google Calendar as well. So I thought that'd make sense. Also posted, if you look at that, either rsu19.info if you're in the district, or steampoweredlearning.org if you're outside the district. That list there is all the upcoming for this week, the different topics. So it looks like this week, let's just double check here. So today we're talking about calendar. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about Chromebooks themselves, the hardware. One of the questions that have come up I've seen is, what's the difference between a physical Chromebook versus, a laptop or PC or a Mac or whatever, all that kind of stuff. So we'll be talking hardware tomorrow, what those things are changed and added to, and that kind of thing. And then Wednesday, we're going to be doing applied digital skills. And so there's an online curriculum that Google provides, and they give you different topics, different lessons that you can share with your students. And so it might be on how to build a resume, or it might be on how to do a slideshow, or all kinds of different things. There's dozens of different opportunities there. So we'll be sharing that out with everybody on Wednesday. Thursday, we'll be doing audio skills. Somebody requested specifically on audio recordings and how do I embed that into a Google slide or that kind of thing. And so we'll be doing that on Thursday. And then finally on Friday, we'll be doing Google Earth Web. So Google Earth, as many people know, been around for a long time. They now have the web version of that. So you can do virtual tours. So if this is something that you want your students to take a virtual tour of, someplace else in the world, this is a really great tool to be able to do that. I also wanted to share that last week we didn't have school. We had April vacation. So what I did is I did interviews with different tech people around the state. We went to Lewiston, South Portland, Yarmouth, Waterville, all kinds of different places. And we'll probably continue to do that going forward, as I'll try to, as much as possible, reach out to different districts around the state of Maine, just to get their perspective. We're all going through very similar types of situations at different districts, bigger or smaller, north or south, east or west. But the plan there is to try to get different perspectives from different people, what they're seeing, what they're doing from their schools, what's working, what isn't working, and hopefully we can just learn from each other. So I'll continue that. I'd like to try to get that to do once a week, interviews with different people around the state, but we'll see if we can make that happen. So welcome everybody. For today, we're going to be talking about Google Calendar specifically. So I'm going to do a quick screen share here. Make sure that went through. Okay, looks good. Okay, so we are just in our dummy account we've seen before. This is our generic accounts, the Stuart Dent account that we're going to use for this. And today we're going to talk about Google Calendar, not just using it for Hangouts, but all the other types of things we can do with it. So step number one, I'm just going to go to google.com, click up here in the upper right on the little waffle here, and then find Calendar. And of course, you can go directly to that too if you just want to type calendar.google.com. So here it is. We've seen this before. So this is our month-long view. And I'm going to go through a little bit more of the details. We did do Google Calendar a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about Hangouts, what that looks like. And we'll do something similar, but this will be a little bit more, again, in detail for that. So the very first thing, if I want to look at a different view right now, I'm looking at month view. Up in the upper right here where it says month, I can click on that, and I can always go day. So an individual day, or week. You can see a week view, month, year, or schedule. Schedule would mean what things are coming down, what events are lined up. You're kind of like an agenda view, or 4 days. I'm going to click on month view for a second. Just keep it here. Again, this one's pretty empty. This isn't my calendar. I'm going to share this with my calendar so you can kind of see what that looks like. But right here, we're on the 27th. You can see over on the left side here, there's a bunch of different calendars up here. So one thing that's a little bit weird, or kind of sometimes it's difficult to kind of figure out, is Google Calendar is the entire service, all calendars inside of it. It's also, Google Calendar could have multiple calendars within it. So if you notice here over on the left side, I've got the Stuart Dent calendar right here. I can also have birthdays, and here are different classes. Now, if I check or uncheck these links here, it doesn't mean it deletes these calendars. It just means that it hides them. So if I only want to look at one at a time, I can actually click this 3 dots here, and I can see only display this calendar. You might be like, well, why do you need all that? Well, you may have a situation. I can show you real quickly. I'll throw up my calendar. Let's see if I've got it up here as a tab. And you might have many, many calendars all linked together. You notice here I've got all kinds of different calendars for different purposes. I've got my own personal one. I've got contacts. I've got my boys, my students, and my own 2 boys, my own 2 children. My wife's calendar's on here, all kinds of different options in here. And so you might have multiple calendars listed, but you only want to see one at a time. So we're going to do the ones here for our class, and we'll show you how that connects to Google Classroom as well. If I want to create a new event, so I'm going to create an event for tomorrow. I'm going to click on the 28th, and I'm going to say we're going to have a meeting. Okay, so it starts with the date right here. I can add a time if I want to. If I don't add a time, if I click save, you'll notice that it has this block right here. That's the difference between events that have times. They're actually not blocked out. They're just, they have just text there, or if it's entire day. So I say a meeting all day. I don't have a time associated with that. If I click on this little event again, I can also, right here it is, I can go to that pencil, and that will be the edit mode. So I can add more things to it. So my meeting isn't going to be all day. I'm going to uncheck that. This actually goes from, we'll say from 10 to 11. That's when my meeting is. Cool. And it's only going to be for tomorrow. I could have this repeat many different days if I wanted to. If I wanted this meeting to go from Tuesday, say, to Thursday, I could have it go, multiple days. I could say, does this repeat? So for example, if I'm setting up a schedule for a time to meet with my students, like we're going to meet on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock, I could say, okay, so we're meeting, actually, let's see what I've got here. I've got on Tuesday. Okay, good. From 10 to 11. We're just going to keep it on that Tuesday. This repeats weekly on Tuesdays from 10 to 11. So now if I save that, you'll see here, it now goes a 10 o'clock meeting every Tuesday until I tell it to stop, basically. So I don't have to repeat it every time. It's just a one-time deal. The other thing in repeating events, if I click on it and edit it again, when I make a change, you'll ask me, do I want to make a change for all the events or just for that one? And so I could say the location is going to be right here. Do I want to add a Google Meet? Do I want to add a video conference with that? One interesting thing about that is because we're now getting more and more virtual, schedules are a factor, right? We don't know if somebody's available, from 9 to 5, like a typical agenda day. But I can click right here and click Find a Time. And if I invite a guest on the right side here, so I'm going to invite myself. I'm going to invite my other account here. And notice here it's showing me these things that are available. So I can say, okay, well, he's not available from 9 to 10, from 10 o'clock, from 1 to 2, but he is available from 11 to 12. So it will show you between 2 people, if they shared it, if they allowed it to be, that you can see what their schedule is ahead of time. And so that's really useful if you're trying to schedule a time with another teacher or maybe a student to see when's available or when not. If we were back in a physical building, like back in the school, you can also do this thing called rooms. Now, we're not going to worry about this in this situation, but you can have specific rooms that are signed out. So for example, we have our small group rooms in RSU 19 in our high school. And so if I say, okay, I want to sign that room out for this time, I can sign out for a certain time frame. The reason why that's useful and important is that means that if I signed it out from that 11 to 12 time frame, it's not available to somebody else to sign it out. And it doesn't just have to be rooms. Let's say it's a rolling projector card or something else that would be like portable that people could sign out and use. Maybe it's a computer lab or the library time or something like that. You could sign that out when you're in a physical space together and you can share that time. These resources, this list has to be predetermined by us. I mean, we have to set it up ahead of time, but we certainly can add that if that's something that you need us to do. I'll actually remove that room because we don't need it for right now. All right. Also in here under event details, I'm back here under event details of my guests. I have one guest right now, which is, let me remove that room right there. Is that guest allowed to modify events? We're probably not going to let them. Again, unless it's maybe you and one other teacher and you don't mind if they change which time it is or that kind of thing. I can either turn that on or off. If they can modify the events, can they invite others? Again, probably not. If I'm inviting students, I'm not going to allow them to invite other students. I'm going to do that myself, so I'll uncheck that. And finally, can they see the guest list? Again, if it's just a classroom, it's probably fine. But if you don't want them to see who's also been invited, you can uncheck that there as well. And so now they will be invited themselves, and you will see if they say yes or not. One thing by inviting another person is they'll get an email that will say, can you go yes, no, or maybe? And then you'll get to see the results of that. So I will save this event. And you notice how, again, as I mentioned, because this is a repeating event, does that mean I'm inviting them to all the events or just this one? I'm going to only invite this one for right now. And I'm going to send them an email. Would you like to send invitation emails to Google Calendar guests? Yes, I'm going to send them this email. So here's the event right here. Email sent. I will show you what it looks like from the other end. So as a, whoops, let me, right here. This is the receiver of the email. Right here, we got an invitation to a meeting. Click on that. Here it is. Now, this one had a Hangout in it, so it's right here. But they can say, yes, I'm going to go to that meeting. Maybe I'll go to it, or no. Let me show you what it looks like if I click yes. So they click yes. And they'll see what it looks like on their calendar as well. All right, so here it looks like, if I click back on here, on the actual event of the day. Let me see it here. We got too many calendars going on. Let's see, why isn't that loading? I'm going to refresh this page, see what comes up. For some reason, it's not loading, but we'll try to click on it again. There we go. That's what should appear. Okay, so all this stuff should appear here. And I could see, yes, Kern Kelly said, yes, he will be there. Some of the other options in here, if I click on this pencil again. Okay, so right now, this event is going weekly on Tuesdays. Also, the Google Meet I have, I'm going to click on the Google Meet information. Again, you don't have to have a video call. It could just be a connection. Do I want to add a live stream or not? What that means is, do you want to broadcast that so somebody can watch it even if they're not in it? In this case, when you're just doing a class or one-to-one, you probably would not do that. In fact, I would be surprised if you would. So most likely you're not going to do that. But just know that's what that's for, is that add a live stream. And you can always remove it if you wanted to. I can click that X right here and remove it. Notifications. So do I want to receive a notification 10 minutes before the event? Now, a notification is cool, but what that means is I actually have to be on the computer signed in for a little window to pop up. I might want an email instead. So let's say I want an email 10 minutes before, email that would receive to me and say, hey, don't forget, you've got this meeting coming up. Or if I really wanted to, I could put both. I could put as many notifications as I want. I could say, email me 10 minutes before, or email me 10 hours before, or whatever. You can adjust that how you want. And in fact, you can set a default for your entire calendar that every time you have a new event, do you want to be notified about it, and how do you want to be notified? I always want an email one day before, or whatever variation of that. You can also have, and I'll show you how to do this, a morning email that comes, that's your agenda for the entire day. It's one email that comes at 5 a.m. and it has your entire agenda of all the things that are on your Google Calendar for that day. And that's usually handy and helpful as well. Keep scrolling down here. If you notice here, which calendar is it under? Now, I put this under my default calendar. I'm going to click Save again just to show you what that means. My default calendar is the one that will probably have your name on it over here on the left, and it's the top one. This one called Stuart Den in this case. That's your first calendar. That's the default one. That's like your personal one. That's the home calendar here. These other ones are ones that you've either added afterward or added to. So I can add this meeting right here. I'm going to go back into settings here. Right now, it's under my home calendar. I could change it to put it under another calendar if I needed to. A situation like that is maybe you have an account, you have a meeting, and say, oh, you know what, let's put this in the classroom calendar because we want everybody to join us or something like that. What's your visibility? You can also set, now you notice when I joined with my other calendar, my account, my two personal accounts, it asked if it showed the actual event or just free or busy. If you wanted to have a situation where you're only showing things that I'm free or I'm busy, but you're not showing anybody what's going on inside of that, you can set that view. So right now, the default visibility to public or private. Private means they may see it's free or busy, but they won't see what's happening inside of it. Or public would mean it would say meeting with, classroom at this time or whatever it is. Again, that's up to you how you want to set that. Do you want additional description? So this is a meeting about technology. So I can add all kinds of text in here. I can add links if I want to. Hey, don't forget to read this first. I can also attach information. I can attach a Google Drive document. I could upload something. Maybe don't forget to read this document before we meet or something like that. That's a handy way to do it right in here. All right, that all looks good. I think we're good there. Let me click save for this event. I'm going to send the update. Notice how, so I updated, because I changed things, I added some more notifications. It's going to say, hey, would you like to send update emails to existing calendar guests? So do you want to let them know that things have changed in some case? And I click send, and then they'll receive that email saying, yes, there's a new change. That might be important. Let's say you change the time or you change something that's going to happen inside of it to let them know, to notify them. So that's a simple email. It's a simple Google Calendar event, a single one that we repeated for a couple days. If I click on, again, the next month here, I'll see many different months here. Another calendar you will probably likely have already in your calendars here is, and I have two of them here, are Google Classroom calendars. So if I go to classroom.google.com, I've got two of my, sample make-do classrooms here. Anytime that I add a new assignment in here, if I go to classwork and create a new assignment, and we'll call this one is a quiz, and I'll add instructions, whatever I'm going to add here, but I'm going to assign it a due date right here. So I'm going to put this for a due date for tomorrow. Okay, and you can put time optionally if you want to as well. But I assign this one for due tomorrow. Again, not much here. I could add a Google Doc if I wanted to. So let's say I'm sharing this out to my students and say, hey, this is due by Friday or whatever I want to put there. I could choose that. I'm going to assign that. Only assignments that have a due date associated with them will be connected to your Google Calendar. If they don't have a time frame associated with them, they won't be connected to Google Calendar because it won't know when to put them. So here is my quiz I just created, due tomorrow. I can look in Google Calendar here and see, this is my regular Google Calendar here. Oh, there it is for tomorrow. Now I didn't put a time with it, so it just says assignment quiz. Okay. Any student that is in that Google Classroom, in your classroom, will also be connected there. They'll automatically be joined to that. So if they click on that, they'll see that information. Also, you could share this one calendar publicly, read only, so mom and dad could see it if you wanted to. So they could see it. They couldn't change anything. They could just look at it, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So if I want to go back to my Google Classroom, I'll go back to my home page of Google Classroom here. If I want to see all the things that are due at once, so let's say I have multiple classes, I can click on the three lines in the upper left. I can go to calendar right here, and this will show me all the things that are coming up that I have assigned that have due dates associated with them. This will just show me right here. And if this isn't detailed enough for me, I can look at individual classes here, or I could say, you know what, I want to see the entire calendar at once. I can click on this little calendar link right here, and that will pull up the entire calendar like this. Now over on the left side, any new course classes that I create in Google Classroom will automatically have a calendar associated with them that will be connected over here. If I hide those or turn those on or off, again, I'm just unclicking or clicking those. That's purely for me. It doesn't affect at the other end. The students will see the same thing, but this is just so they can see, oh, okay, I've got, this coming up next week. I've got a quiz coming up. I've got all these different things. And I do think it's really important, especially right now, going forward, that we're pretty consistent about using calendar. And the reason why is I notice as a parent right now, getting all the different sources of different information coming from different places, we really need it to go to one place for our kids. So they can go to one place and see everything that they need at once. And a calendar makes sense. If they have things that are due at a certain time, they can get to anything from here. If they need to get to that quiz, they can click on this and look right here. There's an address, there's a link right here. They can click on that and go directly to that assignment. So this really makes it easy for them. It also makes it easy for us. And they can also see if they have multiple things coming up. I know it's really hard, being purely virtual if you don't have a consistent schedule that we can stick to. So that's super helpful that way. Other things, these are a little bit more cosmetic stuff over here on the left side. If I want to change the color of which calendar it is, I can click on these little 3 dots here. And again, it only changes it for you. It doesn't change it for them. The benefit of this is, again, just seeing okay, I've got green is one calendar. My red meetings are a different calendar. All this different stuff. It's just helpful as far as cosmetically you looking at all these things. If you look at some of these other calendars that I have here that have a bunch of different stuff, you'll notice I have all kinds of different colors here because they're all kinds of different purposes, whatever they are, if it's home one calendar or a work one or whatever. If I wanted to share a calendar right here with another individual, let's say I want to share this calendar with another teacher so we both could add to it or subtract to it this way. I'm going to go put my cursor over it, click these 3 little dots, go to sharing and settings and sharing right here. Okay, this is the info for my calendar. In this case, it's just for that junior English home learning calendar. So this is for that one class. Here it is. I can put a description here if I want to. Time zone, again, usually by default, the time zone's already set up, but you can change that if you want to. Organization it's under. Do I want to make this public? Now, again, right now, the only people who can see this calendar are the students inside the class. That doesn't mean they can edit it. They can only see the calendar inside of that. If I make it public, that means I could take this calendar and I could embed it somewhere. I could share it somewhere so other people could see it. They wouldn't be able to change it. They could just see what's going on. Again, that depends on what your needs are. If you have a public calendar, like we have in the past, we've had calendars like, sharing out the gymnasium or the auditorium or that kind of stuff. Might have one shared out. I'll actually show you one in a second. That was a shared conference room that was managed. When they make that, if you make that available to the public, what can they see? Can they only see that it's free or busy? Or can they see the event details inside of it? Let me show you an example of this. So I'm going to uncheck that one for a second. This is, no, not this one here. Actually, resources, right here. So this is one we had set up for the guidance room, the main conference room or the guidance conference room. Now, if you notice here, it just says meeting, conference room, meeting. So I do not have access to this one. I'm read only. I actually do have access to this one. That's why it actually says what's going on in here. But it would just say, okay, this room is signed out for this time, for this meeting. If I click on it, it would show me more details from 2:30 to 3:30. So if I, as a user, as a teacher in the school, would say, okay, I want to see what's going on. Oh, I can't use it from 2:30, but I could use it from 3:30 to 4:30 or something like that. I could, sign out that way. This is a type of calendar you could have posted for parents if they want to just see assignments when they're due, but not, again, be able to, add anything to them. The other important thing here in a view like this is in the lower right-hand corner, see a little plus here, the little plus Google Calendar. If a user clicks on that, they can subscribe to that calendar. And what that means is they can join it as if they're going to be in it. So let's jump back here for a second. Click on it again. I don't think it popped up. There we go. I'm in the wrong account. That's why it's doing that. Let's try that again. Okay, so now I'm in the right account. Okay, so now I'm in the Stewart account. And now you notice here where it says busy, or available, free or busy. Again, so it doesn't tell me what's going on inside of it. It just tells me that it's not available. I'll click that plus. It will pop up and say, hey, do you want to subscribe to these calendars? Again, it just means you can view them. So I'm going to say yes. I want to add these to my own. Now this account can now see, okay, if you look down in the lower left here, let me make it a little bit higher so you guys can see it better. There we go. So down here in the lower left, Nokomis guidance office or the conference room, and I can turn those on or off. And I can say, okay, well, I just want to see real quickly, is the guidance conference room available? I'll click on here, open it up. Let's see, no, it's busy for today. I'll have to use it tomorrow or whatever. So you can kind of turn those on or off as you need. That's something that your parents could do in the sense that they could connect to they have to have a Google account. They could connect to their calendar, not have it on all the time. They can just kind of turn it on and off as they need. Super handy. The other way to connect other types of calendars, if I wanted to embed a calendar like this is right here. So this is embedded inside of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my calendar settings. Let's say I want to embed this classroom calendar here. Go to settings. And we started to scroll down here. We said make available to the public or not, make available to RSU19 or not. So again, I could just share this just with students inside the district, not publicly, but just for our own domain. I could also link this directly. If it clicks get shareable link, that link I could paste somewhere, like in a website or a Google slide somewhere, and they could just click on it and go directly to it. Okay, sharing with specific people. If I want to add another teacher to be able to add to this calendar directly, I could say, okay, I'm going to add with this teacher here. What can they do? Can they see everything? Can they only see free or busy? Can they make changes? Can they actually add their own events? Or can they make changes and manage sharing? What that means is, can they make a change? Could they also share that calendar with other people? So I would only use this in the case of, let's say, another teacher or some situation where I'd want, only to give them control. This event details link here is automatically defaulted if you have a Google student join their Google Classroom already. So for example, these right here is that home learning class, and all the students are already inside of that already without having to do it. And here are the teachers we mentioned, manage and sharing. That's by default. Notifications, as I mentioned, if you wanted to have a default notification, so every time that you add something to that classroom, by default, it's going to say, I want to email me 1 hour before the event. Again, you can set that up however you want. You can say however you want to manage that beforehand. All day notifications, same idea, just for all days. Other notification, do you want them to be notified if a new event's added, if an event responses, if it's daily agenda, all these different kind of changes. I would play with those. I wouldn't turn those all on. But if you get to the point where, geez, I really need to know anytime there's an update made, you could go in and click on that and email me right away when this is changed. Okay, this is the embed code. We talked about the embed code. So like if I want to put this on my website or have this so parents could look at it, or maybe students could look at it, if I click customize right here, right now, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, I could take that, copy that text right there, and I could go paste it in an HTML embed code onto a Google site or something. If I didn't want all this stuff, let's say I want to take away the print icon or the calendar list or the tabs. You notice up here these different tabs, all these different types of things. Do I want to take away the time zone? Do I not worry about that? Like I don't have to show that. I could change the height and the width. I could change the background color if I wanted something else. If I want to, let's say, make it red, all these different types of things you can adjust and change. And every time you're changing these things, you're updating this code up at the top. When I'm all done, you can add multiple calendars or not. So I could take this set of calendars right now, copy this text up here, and if I go into my Google site and paste it, that's when it's going to look like something like this. So here's a Google site. Here's that HTML code that's been pasted in here, and it's going to be embedded right here. Now, again, the value of this is that anybody can go see this without actually having edit access to the calendar itself. I'm going to cancel out of this. Let me jump back here. So that's where I would customize which calendars I want to share or want to show. Do I want to unsubscribe to a calendar? Maybe you added one and you want to unsubscribe to it later. I can do that right here. Or do I want to delete a calendar totally? Again, I can link right here. There are all kinds of different other settings in here for specific calendar ones. I'm just going to go back to our full settings, scroll down to the lower left. We added these classroom calendars by default, so these are already joined here. These are the guidance ones we mentioned. I'm going to show you how to add another calendar, and these are ones that are outside of our district. So in the lower left right here where it says Other Calendars, click on this little plus right here. I could subscribe to a calendar. So if somebody sent me one directly to create the link, I could copy and paste the link right in there. I could create a new calendar myself, a brand new calendar, one for something totally different if I wanted to. I have one shared with my kids. I have one shared with my wife. I have ones for different purposes. I actually have a calendar. All it is my family's birthdays. So I set them up one day. I went through and set up everybody's birthdays in my family. I said, do an email reminder 1 week before. And I said, repeat every year, yearly on this date, repeat. And once I've done that, I just hide that calendar and never have to think about it. So I'll receive an email 1 week before a birthday that shows, hey, it's Lizzie's birthday next Tuesday or whatever. And I will know ahead of time. So again, once it was set up, it was super easy. But we're going to go over here with this one that says browse calendars of interest. Click on that. And so I can add holidays. So let's say I add US holidays. I can click on this little down arrow here, regional holidays. These are all kinds of different countries. I'll scroll all the way down to the United States. There it is. So holidays in the US. I will click on that right there. And now that will be added in the lower left to my interesting calendars. If you scroll down here, here are holidays in the United States. Let's add a couple more. We get a little ways, but let's say basketball season next year. Again, we got a ways to go, but if you notice here under basketball, it's got all kinds of different basketball around the world, not just US centric. But I can click right here on NBA and we'll do the Boston Celtics. So that will just appear when their schedule is released, pop up. I can do baseball, football, cricket, hockey, rugby, all kinds of stuff. And if I keep scrolling down a little bit more, I thought this is interesting, phases of the moon. So I'll click on that and that will also be available. So now if I go back to my full one, you'll notice here, okay, I have all kinds of things in here I didn't have before. One of them is the holidays. Let me uncheck all of these so we can kind of hide some. So I'll look at them one at a time. So one is the holidays. So here's Easter Sunday. Let's say I want to change that color so it sticks a little bit more. We'll do that a bright blue here. Okay, that looks good. Boston Celtics. Again, now this is the schedule as they should have been. Obviously, they're not playing right now. But, of course, we need to change that to green. We need to be Boston green. And if I do that, I'll change this one to orange. Okay. So we've got our Boston Celtics schedule as it would have been, our holidays, and the phases of the moon. Again, this just popped up. Let's change that color to gray. I can turn those on and off if I want. Cool. We'll keep the holidays on. Excellent. So I've got most of my calendar set up. A couple of last things we can add to it. In the upper right here where it says the gear settings, I'm going to click on that. Settings right here. Okay. These are overall settings for the entire app itself, not just individual calendars inside of your Google Calendar, but the entire thing at once. So I can scroll down. Do I want to show a world clock, event settings, default duration. So if I usually have meetings that say 30 minutes and I don't want to have to change it every time, I could change that to go from 60 minutes to 30 minutes every time. By default, do I let others see the guest list? No. Do I let them invite others? No, by default. So if I change this once here, that means I don't have to change it each time. Alerts by default. Do I show weekends? Do I show decline events? All these type of settings, for the entire app itself at once. Enable working hours. So this is interesting, especially right now. If you want to turn these on, so I'm available from 7:30 to 3:30, Mondays through Friday, say, I could turn on working hours right here. So let's turn some of these off. So it's Monday through Friday. We will say from 7:30 to 4:30. All right, so now if you were looking for this account to see if they're available, they'll be available during those times, but before or after, that one wouldn't be considered working hours. And again, these are the types of things that are, I think, really crucial right now to set up so people can more easily connect with you and work with you and schedule times and meetings and so forth. Main work location, again, not going to be a big problem right now, but you could add an actual location if you wanted to, and keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to click back here. This looks good for all these. Okay, and I think that's probably the only last thing I'll just share, and we won't get too much into these, is get add-ons. So add-ons, as I mentioned, I believe it's a week before last, there's all kinds of little programs that add functionality to the app that aren't built in. Here's Zoom, GoToMeeting, all these kind of video conferences, obviously, right now. But there's a lot of different stuff. So if you want to add, here's SMS reminders. So maybe, you'll get a text reminder rather than just an email reminder. So if you want to go to your phone, that kind of thing. Again, I would play with these before I, add them all to everything, but that's the type of thing that it's not built in, but it's super handy to have that you can add on to your Google Calendar. The last thing I'll share, we're going to kind of segue over into Q&A in a second, but over on the right side here, you'll notice this bar here. It's got two icons. It's got Keep and Task over in the upper right. And I can hide it or pull it back out again if I need to. So these are, we're going to be talking about more about Google Keep in a second, but what they're doing here is they're actually building these into kind of everywhere. Like you'll see these little symbols here will be in Google Docs, will be in Slides or Drive, also right in Calendar. So if I want to add a reminder or a Google Keep, a note right here, I can do that right from this link. So I don't have to go back to Google Keep to do it. I'll show you those processes as well. Same thing with tasks. If I want to add like a to-do list here, I can do the same idea. And we'll show you how to do that. All right. So let's jump back for a second. Our main window here. This is good. I am going to do the Q&A. So these are questions that came up from the last time. Again, we met last week was April vacation. So I just did interviews. They're all posted if you want to check those all out. If you go to the archive, they're all listed. We get to interview some different educators from around the state, which is super fun. And it's really great to hear what they're working on and what's working, in their district and what is working, what isn't, changes made, all that kind of stuff. So that was a good interviews last week if you want to check those out. A couple of questions that came in. One was, I want to use a voice recorder to record a book introduction and insert it to my link as a slide. So what I'm going to do is on Thursday, we're going to do audio, and I will specifically do the whole tutorial on how to add audio. So record audio, just audio only, not video, but record audio, upload that into your Google Drive, and insert that into your Google Slideshow. So if you wanted to, for example, do a book on Google Slides, a student could hit play and listen and then have it go through slide to slide. I'll show you how to do all those steps on Thursday. Another question, when this came up a couple times in a couple different ways, a couple parents were having issues. They were trying to log in with their Google account and see their students' work. What happened is, and they weren't signed in as their child, they were signed in as themselves. So this is a common problem that happens quite a bit. If you're having parents or students kind of having issues, why can't I load that thing? It should be coming to me. I should be fine. Typically what happens is if they are signed in as their parental Gmail account or Google account, that wouldn't have the same access as the student's account will. So if I'm a classroom teacher and in Google Classroom I share it with the student, that will work with the student's account, but it won't work with the parent's Google account, right? Because they're not in the class. So what the big thing that has to happen typically is the parent has to sign out of everything. Make sure they click up on the little icon on the upper right, sign out, then just sign in as a child, and then they should be able to see it all totally. The other question that came up as an add-on to that was for the summaries in Google Classroom, like the Invite Guardian, that doesn't mean that the parent will have access to the student's classroom. It just means they'll receive weekly summaries of what's going on. So a parent won't have access to all the stuff inside of a Google Classroom. The student will, obviously, but they'll just get a weekly summary or every couple of days, whatever they set up, that says, okay, here's what happened this week. Here's the assignments that are due, all that kind of stuff. Should be. And I believe over the vacation, we added a bunch of more people to be able to be an invite. So for Google Guardian. So if you have any questions, if you don't see the Invite Guardian on the Google Classroom, please let us know. I think we get to everybody, but in case we missed everybody, let us know. And then the last question that came up that I've seen come up a couple of times was about sharing videos. If you record your own video, let's say with Screencastify or with WeVideo or whatever, and you want to share that with your students, you need to make sure that the sharing setting is accurate. So I wanted to actually show that one to go through those steps. Okay. I jump back to my kind of sample account here. So I want to make sure I shared a video. I just recorded a video, say, and I want to share that appropriately. I'm going to go back to my Google Drive. So I'm going to click up on the waffle here in the upper right, go to the Drive. And I'm just going to search for a video. I think I have a couple of them in here. Whoops. Not sure that loaded. Okay, public videos. Do I not have any videos? Let's double check this. I know I do. There we go. Search for videos. There we go. There's a video. Okay, I have a Screencastify. Perfect. So if I open that up, right now, by default, it's not going to be shared with anybody until I tell it to. Okay, so I need to make sure that I've shared that. I've uploaded to my Google Drive. It's there. What I'm going to do, in the upper right-hand corner right here in these three little dots, click on those three dots here, go to Share. I'm going to click on Advanced, and this will say Private by default, and I'm going to change that to say, what do I want to do? Do I want to share it publicly to the world? Do I want to share it only with people inside of RSU 19? Those are probably the two most common ones you would do. By default, it's off, so only you can see it. You could share it directly with one person, but if I do RSU 19, what that means is that the students can see it. When they're signed into their Google account, they'll see their link, they'll see it, and I can link that into my Google Classroom, all that kind of stuff, and we're good to go. If you want to be able to share it publicly, I'm going to click on this. Now, that doesn't mean by default that the world's going to run to it. They're going to go see it. But it means it can be shared publicly if you want to. So I'm going to click Public right here, click Save. And now that link, if I put that somewhere, if I go to my Google Classroom and say, okay, I'm going to copy that link. I'm just, let's copy that. We'll click Done. I'll go to my class. I think I had a Google Classroom up here. And let's say I want to make this as an assignment for my English class. Okay, guys, I want you all to watch this video and leave a comment. I'm going to click in here, please watch this video. Right down a little bit right here is click add, and I can do a link right here. I can also do a Google Drive if I want to. If I click Google Drive, it will be in there. There's my video I just did right there. I can add it that way, or I can add as a link, and I can paste that in there, that big long link we just did. Here it is. Now, if I did not share that publicly, when the students clicked on it, they would say, oh, you don't have access, you need to get access. So before I do that, I want to make sure I click in the video, click on the 3 dots, share, go to advanced, change it from private to either public for everybody or just for RSU19, which means they have to be signed in their account. The benefit of the public for everybody usually wouldn't matter, but in this case, if you have younger students, maybe I have elementary grade kids, and the parents are the ones going to be clicking on the link, so that might be helpful for them. Again, that's up to you how you want to manage that. But now, if I click post, when they go and see this, and you say, "Please watch this video," they'll click play, and they'll be able to watch it and see it from there. So I just want to make sure everybody was comfortable with that. I'm going to go to keep.google.com. So here I am. And this is basically a note-taking app. And again, it's a little bit more fully featured, and I'll show you what that means. But if I want to take a note here, I'm going to take a to-do note. And I'm going to get milk next time I'm out. I'm going to get some TP, and I'm going to make sure that I wear my mask. Okay, right now this is just like it sounds like, just a note-taking app. I can type anything I want in there. If I want to turn this into a checkboxes, I can click the 3 dots right here and turn on checkboxes. And as I'm crossing these out, they'll get completed down the bottom. Or if I want to turn it back again, I can click on those 3 dots and hide checkboxes. Oops, I don't want to delete them. And it'll jump back to a regular text box here. The cool thing that I find about this app is not only because it's web-based that I can get to it from any website, keep.google.com, it also has a mobile app. So I can connect this to my phone, which means that if I'm, again, going to somewhere to, get my groceries or whatever, I can have this list already there as well. Down across the bottom here, some of these different icons. The first one, add a reminder. So if I want something to remind me every day, I can click on here. Don't forget, later today, this will pop up. Or pick a time and pick a place. The place part, again, is interesting. If you access this from your phone, you can actually put a geotagged location. So when you show up at the grocery store, it's going to pop up with that list. Don't forget, the next time you're at the grocery store, get milk, and that will pop up for you. So that's kind of a handy geographic thing that's connected there. Or I could pick a date and time and just have it automatically do it by that time. This, if I want to add multiple people. So I can add 2 different people to add to the same checklist. Again, just like almost like a Google Doc, it's just a little bit more refined. I mean, it's not totally open-ended when I'm typing anything. It just means that now both of us can add to this list. My wife and I have a grocery list we share through Google Keep just for that very purpose. So if I add something, I can see what she's added, kind of go back and forth. The next thing here, this is purely cosmetic. This is just the color. This looks a little bit more yellow, like a typical sticky note, but you can change it. Again, the benefit of that is if you get a lot of different of these notes, you might want to have different colors for different, maybe a school one and a personal one or whatever. I can add photos here. So if I want to upload a picture, I don't know if I've got a good one here. We'll just throw this one up on just to show what it looks like. So there's an image. This was from the other day. We added the title page. I'm actually going to get rid of that one for right now. But you can add pictures there. I can also archive it. So I'm saving it, but not necessarily deleting it over here in the archive tab. 3 dots. So as I mentioned, I can delete it totally. I can add a label. So if I want to have categories of lists. Again, it's a little bit get too overwhelming. We have lists of lists, but I'm going to add labels. I could add drawings. So if I want to do a freehand thing, let's see here. I could add that right directly into my note. So here's my little sketch pad. Again, if I have a touchpad or if I have my phone, which is touchscreen, obviously, I could write a hand-drawn note right there as well. Grab image text. This is interesting. So if I upload an image and if it has text in it, so let's say I took a quick photo of a carton of something that I'm interested in the ingredients in it. I want to have a recipe, but I don't want to have to retype it all. I could take the picture, convert that to text, and that would, as best as it could, it would convert those words, that image words, into real actual text that you could copy and paste. Again, it's not perfect, but it's kind of a handy tool. And finally, right here, copy to Google Docs. So if you have a lot of notes, and I have this whole big thing that I want to do all this stuff with, but I don't want to have to send it all to my Google Docs, I can just click right here, and it'll just send this information directly to a Google Doc in OneDrive. This thumbtack up in the upper right here, if I click on that, all that's going to happen there means it's going to click close. It's going to keep it at the top. It's pinned. So if I have more notes here, I'm going to just do another note here, just kind of show you what that means. Click close. See how it drops down below to other notes? So these top pinned notes would be my most ones that I want to see the most recently, like my most to-do list. The next time I'm going to go grocery shopping, this is what I need to get, or whatever I need to do. And so I'm going to pin those. If I unpin those, it will drop it down to the bottom underneath under others. Reminders here. Again, if I have something set for timed, if I want to edit more labels, different new lists, if I want checklists here, if I want to do a drawing right directly here, again, I can do that drawing piece, and it'll be its own little, I'm going to hit close here. That'll be its own note right here, as if it's a freehand drawing, and if I want to upload an image right there and have it convert. So Google Keep is super handy if you need just kind of to-do lists right at your fingertips. And as I mentioned earlier, back in either Drive or in Calendar, these are built now right over in the right. So if I'm in my Google Drive, over on the right side, you'll notice these shortcuts here. Here's Google Calendar, and here's Google Keep right here. If I click on that, there's the note that I was just looking for. So if I'm like, oh, what was that thing I need to do again? I can click on that, pull it open. I can click on it and add more to it right from my tab here. And I can click on the bottom. Down the bottom, there's a little arrow there to kind of make it hide again. Same thing in Google Calendar. Here it is again, linked right directly here. So we start to get the idea here of how all of these things, let me stop sharing. We're starting to get the idea how all these things are really connected. So I've got my Google Calendar for my scheduling. I've got my Keep for my to-do list. I've got my work in Google Drive as far as my work with my students and myself. And they're all kind of interrelated to really work with each other, hopefully seamlessly. And finally, of course, Google Meet, as we're using right now, to be able to share out with the world or with our students. So I think with that, I don't notice any more questions for the day. I do apologize for having that no screen share, but I think I'll get that all squared away. So I think with that, I'll just share with you coming up for tomorrow and the rest of this week. Just so we can kind of see what's coming down the pike here. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about a little bit more hardware. We're talking about Chromebooks. And the reason why I had a couple of questions come up about, oh, can I do that with a Chromebook? Or what is that? How is that different than a laptop or a PC or a Mac or whatever? So we're just going to talk about that. It might be a little bit, I'll do a little bit of show and tell as much as I can, just because I'll have a Chromebook available and we'll use that to kind of check it out, to see what's available, what's not, what you can do, what you can't do. But I think it's worth us knowing, the hardware, kind of the behind the scenes of what we're using, what our students have available to them, what they're using. And then on Wednesday, we're going to do applied digital skills. So this is something that basically Google has a curriculum for all kinds of different activities. If you're looking for something that any of your students can do down to elementary, probably I would say about 4th grade on, if you want them to be able to work on some tools, and they basically can be self-run. And what I mean by that is, for example, one of the things that we'll share is using Google Slides as a choose your own adventure creator. So students could do that. All the pieces that they need are already done for you. You just basically provide it to them. Once you've done that, once you've connected with them and say, here you go, here's the assignment, they have all the instruction built right into that for you to use as far as the management, all the pieces of that. And then I'll show you where you can do it, go beyond that. So after next Wednesday. Thursday, we will do audio recording and editing. And as I mentioned, I'll show you how to record audio and embed that into a Google slideshow if you want, or have that play, that kind of thing. And then Friday, I'm hoping to do another interview. I have a couple things lined up, but if that doesn't work out, we will do the Google Earth web view and how that looks, and can do virtual field trips with your students. So that is the plan for this week. I hope you guys all had a great break, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Thanks a lot. See you next time.